Hey everybody, welcome back to Let Her Cook on BSCN. I'm Jackie Dutton, and today we're going to go over some prediction markets because if you have been tuning in, I have called a couple really interesting ones that ended up resolving within the week, and I didn't plan that, and I didn't think that would happen, but I have gotten a little lucky, but you know, still pretty smart. Still just kind of generally judging with some common sense. Some topics that I think we can go through today. So we're going to use Kalshi, and if we run out of some fun things on Kalshi, we may flip over to Polymarket and just see what there is to see over there. But prediction markets it is for 30 minutes today. So we are going to start here by looking at the trending topics. Today, let's see, there's who will Trump meet with this year? Kim Jong-un, obviously, of North Korea, or Justin Trudeau. So I think we just paused some relations with Canada. I think they paused all tariff talks and agreements and trade agreements or something like that. So I think he's going to have to meet with Justin Trudeau at some point. But Justin Trudeau's out, right, as the PM of Canada. So we'll see. Let's see. Let's see. What will Trump say during the bilateral meeting with Japan? These bets are also really weird. Like, I don't know if I would actually go in on what Trump is saying specifically, like dropping particular words. And Washington and Kansas City, I would take KC on this all day. The Commanders suck. Toronto versus the Dodgers, game 3. I lived in LA, I'd take the Dodgers. Okay, will any thieves in the Louvre heist be charged this year? I saw over the weekend they actually have made a few arrests in connection to this. So I actually do think that they will find before the end of the year whoever probably did this. They caught the people who stole and robbed Kim Kardashian in France. So I actually think that they will find the people who stole this. That was an absolutely crazy story. If you guys haven't looked into it, they climbed up a ladder and they used some kind of like glass cutter and angle grinder to get in through a window, and within 7 minutes they managed to steal millions and millions of dollars worth of historical jewelry. So I do think that this one is a solid yes. Now the market here is, will they do it before November, meaning within 3 days, or will they just do it by December? So you have a month and 3 or 4 days left. Or before 2026. This being resolved as a 94% yes. I think this obviously is a little more accurate here. And then sometimes I wonder, though, how do you resolve this bet? Because obviously before November is before 2026. So the way that these are worded, you have to be careful, right? But this obviously means within 4 days, and then this means within about 35 days, and then this is within about 50 plus 60-ish days. So I would think that actually the before December one is the safer bet, and then this one is the safest. But you know, let's see what the payout is if you select within the next 4 days. And you put $100, I don't know if that's worth it. I don't know if $47 is really worth it here. Let's go back to the trending topics. And then we will go over to something that I saw that I thought was interesting that we might want to talk about. How long will the government shutdown last? Obviously, this has gone on, I think, a lot longer than people anticipated. The government shutdowns in the past have, there's been one that is longer than this one, And I think this is approaching being the longest, if not, will continue on to actually kind of win out as the record. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like they have come to an agreement. I did see that they have decided that they are going to continue with the like SNAP and EBT benefits of people. So there was a lot of discourse online, a lot of people saying that if they didn't receive their SNAP or EBT, that they would just steal whatever they needed. So that was going to create obviously a lot of violence and just crime in general if they didn't do that. But then going ahead and approving that will and that will happen on the first of the month. So that would obviously mean that the government clearly has intention to keep this up. I think the left and the right can't find common ground. They don't want to agree and they don't want to negotiate. It sounds like the right is basically holding the left hostage, or the Republicans are holding the Democrats hostage. So yeah, I might take the over on this one. I think the more than 40 days, that one's pretty safe. But at some point, I mean, by the first of the month, like this is getting absolutely ridiculous. Like we need to resolve something here. And that's not a political take. I'm just saying people need to go back to work. This is getting absurd. Now let's talk about the humble pie and the crow that everyone else needs to be eating because of the bet that I talked about last week. Who will President Trump pardon this year? So the top candidate last week was Changpeng Zhao, or CZ, of Binance. And he had the highest likelihood chance, but it was still, I think, in like the 40% range. So it was a decent payout if you chose him. When I talked about this, I said that he had a decent chance and that we have a crypto president now. And there were also some signs, if you had been paying attention, between Binance and World Liberty Fi specifically, that looked like CZ's relationship with the Trump family was becoming closer and possibly leaning towards something like CZ receiving a pardon. He has already served his time, but a pardon is more of kind of just a formality at this point. But like if he was a citizen of the United States, it would actually grant him the right to vote again, instead of having to be a felon and then he couldn't vote. But otherwise, it really doesn't change a whole lot about CZ being able to just kind of like travel in and out of the US or whatever business he was going to conduct. But it really is kind of a show of really good faith of like, hey, we're going to pardon you. We don't think that you're a criminal. It doesn't expunge anything from his record. It just counts as like kind of like an extra little sticker or a stamp or a gold star that says, hey, he did this thing, but this president believes in good faith and full confidence that he should be pardoned, and we should not really like hold a gun to his head metaphorically over his past wrongdoings. But it was CZ, and that bet resolved obviously with 100%. Now, there are other people on this list still who could potentially be pardoned. Justin Sun has been charged by the SEC with some things. I don't believe that they have dropped those, and he doesn't need a pardon. And again, last week we talked about preemptive pardons and how the Biden administration did that. I don't know if that would count here, but so Justin Sun's kind of an interesting one. He has spent millions to become the top holder of the Trump meme coin on Solana, and he was actually at the dinner that got thrown by the Fight LLC, where Trump kind of popped in, and he was supposed to receive some extra stuff, including maybe some FaceTime with President Trump himself. And he ended up, I don't think they even ended up doing that. But Justin Sun and the Tron team and World Liberty Fi and the Trump sons, so Eric and Don Jr., they have also been commingling with Justin Sun. It's not quite clear if Justin Sun is just kind of trying to infiltrate desperately the Trump family to maybe maybe just kind of have the SEC drop whatever charges against Tron have been levied, because at this point, I think the charges brought up, they tried to get Tron for basically everything that they tried to get everybody else for, like XRP and things that obviously the crypto market and several judges have found to be incorrect when applied to digital assets about securities. But one of the things that the SEC actually accused Tron of is wash trading. And wash trading is actually a very serious and legitimate accusation. I don't think that one's going away. And I think a lot of this posturing and spending money and trying to really infiltrate and trying to get one of the Trump family members to join one of Justin Sun's projects and all, there's all of this chatter and rumors and the connections between all of them. And I just think that maybe that might be a way for Justin Sun looking to get the wash trading accusation and charge by the SEC to go away. We'll see if that happens. I don't know. Let's see who else is on this list, though. And if anybody has come up that's interesting. So Julian Assange is one that kind of sticks out to me because I think they basically, when they let him out, they didn't pardon him. I think they were just like, okay, we're going to release you, but you need to go. I don't see Edward Snowden getting away with anything. Elizabeth Holmes, like, what? She's on Twitter right now, or X, by the way. She has an account. She like posts regularly, and I can't figure out if it's actually her, but it's kind of infuriating if you go through her posts. The highest candidate right now is Roger Ver, who is also known as Bitcoin Jesus, and his crime that he's been charged with is actually more of a tax evasion case. Yeah, I don't see that actually receiving a pardon. This is the one that worries me, though. Sam Bankman-Fried. He is currently chattering, and I see random posts, and I don't know if these posts are accurate or true, about how he claims that he will be receiving a pardon at some point, or he's looking for a pardon. And he tries to claim that the money that he donated to Democrats was all well and good, and then he finally was charged with crimes, and basically like the sky started falling when Democrats realized that he was donating to Republicans as well. I don't know if I believe that. His family was very entrenched in the Democratic Party, and I'm sure he did donate to some Republicans, but the amount was by far exceeded in the amount that he was donating to the Democrats. I don't think Trump is going to be willing to pardon this guy knowing that at all. Trump doesn't even want to approve a head of NASA who had anything to do with Democrats in the past. That was like a huge sticking point for him. So I just don't see Sam Bankman-Fried receiving a pardon, especially by the end of this year. We don't have much time left on the end of this year, and this would be a solid no. But again, the payout's just not going to be worth it. Again, this is not financial advice. Nothing is. I don't recommend like risking your fortune here. But for an $11 profit, if you need an $11 that bad in, less than 70 days, yeah, I think this is a sure one. But, who would do that, right? Okay, so we're going to start. This is a terrible topic. This is something I did want to talk about today. I stumbled across this one, and I found this to be interesting because there's two camps here in this country right now. There is the RFK being the head of Human Health Services, and he is restructuring the childhood vaccine program. And I don't have an opinion on this that I'm going to publicly share. I'm just telling you the way it is right now. He is restructuring the childhood vaccine program with the CDC. There's been a huge revolt at the CDC. I think a lot of them have either quit or resigned or been fired. And you're going to have two sides to this. And I really think there's actually a third. And there are a lot of people in the camp of the third. But you have these two extremes. You have the people who believe, just shoot you up with whatever, they'll take any vaccine. They trust all of this implicitly. And then you have the other side, which does not trust anything. And they would rather, instead of informing themselves on, which ones maybe make sense and which ones don't, which ones are a live vaccine with a dead version of the virus, which ones are broken out in single individual vaccines, as opposed to just this big bundle of like shooting you up with 6 different kinds all at once. Then you have these people who just say, well, then I don't want any of them. The people who say I don't want any of them, and they're not going to be responsible. These are people who like have a cold and wouldn't bother wearing a mask. They just want to like be around you and fucking touch you and whatever else. These people might turn this, what is currently a 16% chance, into a 100. They claim that there's 0 cases. They've eradicated polio in the United States. I also looked up whether or not, I had to go to Grok for this, whether or not polio was reclassified as meningitis. I saw a post about this earlier. They claimed that there was like a period of paralysis about it was like 60 days or something that the virus had to be active before they classified it as polio after they came out with the vaccine. This is apparently not true. But I did go to some key medical facts about polio that I want to share just as information on whether or not you would consider this bet to happen. There are asymptomatic cases of polio, and apparently that's about 70% of them. This is the statistic that actually concerns me and why I think that this number would resolve to a yes, that the media would immediately pick it up and just cause manic panic all over the place. And this in turn would drive sales and voluntary vaccination of polio all over again. Because apparently you can have asymptomatic polio. There are no symptoms and people have a full recovery. The virus is still shed and it aids in transmission. But this asymptomatic case, I think we all lived through COVID. We all knew people who they said they had COVID and they were like, I don't know, I tested positive, but I have no symptoms. I don't feel any different. And we all know, let's be real, how easily that was blown out of proportion and completely bastardized by the media as some kind of fear tactic to tell us to stay in our homes and don't go to your job and, to really suppress you, basically, and oppress you. If they find one fucking asymptomatic case, and the conspiracy theorist in me, I don't have a tinfoil hat in here, but honestly, I might go get one just for this. If they find even one asymptomatic case to just light up a positive test, just to cause this panic, just to drive up sales, I don't believe that the media and major corporations and people who stand to gain a lot of money and attention from this, I don't believe they're above being honest. Just gonna say it. And I think that would resolve this bet to a yes. We all know that flu season towards the end of the year, between a lack of sunlight, people getting less vitamin D, people seeing each other for the holidays, being around each other when they normally wouldn't. There's a lot of travel. This immediately is the beginning and spike of things like flu season. Just general viruses, colds. Every time I show up at a holiday, somebody's got some disgusting cold. It's the gift that keeps on giving. It's a virus, and it's not some, jelly of the month club. But I hope this is not the case, but I would not be surprised if somewhere between Thanksgiving and Christmas, there ends up being some kind of absolute freak out over a possible case of polio in the US. So this is my big, red flag, red herring of the day. And this one really stuck out to me. So, there's all kinds of other disgusting things that you can gamble on here. How many whooping coffee cases this year? At least 30,000. You can get a vaccine for this, by the way. How many cases of the plague? Okay. So this one's also interesting too. This is actually not uncommon to happen, and it usually happens with foreigners or people who have come from another country where there is a plague or just symptoms of a plague. It becomes very obvious that the CDC ends up quarantining whoever this is. Currently, I think the bet stands at 45% of at least 5, and I don't think that there are less than if at least 5 cases of the plague. So there must be like 4, like more than 4 or something in this country right now, because otherwise I don't think this bet would be as high. Let's see, how many cases of screwworm? I think this actually affects beef and cattle, and this has been part of why the meat prices have gone up. And will the U.S. create a chicken vaccination program this year? I don't know. This would be a better question for like farming in the USDA. So let's go back to the main page of Kalshi and just take a look here. Let's see, how high will Bitcoin get before Friday? So obviously, as of yesterday, the market was really heading up and kind of pumping upwards, which is interesting because we just had a new moon. And after a new moon, typically we kind of climb right out of that. How high will Bitcoin get before Friday? Above $129,000? Above $134,000? So this is probably not likely. Above $139,000. But, we can dream, right? And let's go through some sports. Okay, so over the weekend, the bet that really stood out to me, I'm a huge college football fan. I went to Alabama. Roll Tide is obligatory, it's what we say. And I have watched SEC football religiously for a long time. I'm not going to date myself here. But I knew when I looked at these bets last week, I saw Oklahoma was favored over Ole Miss. And I was like, there's no way that Lane Kiffin, the man crazy enough to call for an onside kick in the third quarter of a national championship game, does not have something up his sleeve to win this game. It didn't matter that they were in Oklahoma playing Boomer Sooner every 35 seconds. It didn't matter. I knew Ole Miss was going to win. So that bet paid out nicely here. If you go to my history, my portfolio. Yeah. So a $34 bet paid out $93. So a nice $60 profit here. You will not see me be betting irresponsibly. When they say bet responsibly, they mean never risk more than you are willing to lose. Okay. And this is a really good rule of thumb. I never risk more money than I know I could probably like drink and eat at a brunch with my girlfriends. If I'm going out, $100, or I could stay home and gamble and save my liver a day of abuse. So let's, just keep that in mind when you're risking money. I would never condone anybody like remortgaging their house on any of this. So again, bet responsibly. Well, let's go back to some sports. Let's see what's on the docket this weekend. I know Alabama has a bye week, and our next opponent is against LSU. And unfortunately, I think LSU just fired Brian Kelly. So it means that Alabama will actually be facing an LSU team that is fresh off of a bye weekend as well, with an interim coach and probably an entirely new plan that Alabama hasn't seen or will be able to study. I think Alabama is the better team, but I also think the scariest kind of man is a man with nothing to lose. And an interim coach is a man with nothing to lose. Look at UCLA. They went and just upset the shit out of Penn State after they fired their head coach, and they let Neuheisel become their offensive coordinator, and he became their head coach. So I think it's scary, and we are at home for that game, and I'll probably talk a little bit more about this next week. But we are at home, so I think that actually that works in our favor. That's going to be good. But if you're betting on things like within quarters, I would expect that to actually be a very close game. If not, for LSU to actually get ahead of Alabama a little bit. So this is my prediction here. Let's see. Some upsetting things that happened was Mizzou lost to Vandy, unfortunately, just by a touchdown, but I believe they hurt their quarterback, Mizzou's quarterback. Vanderbilt and Texas. Okay. So Texas almost lost to Mississippi State. I know the cowbells that they ring in that stadium is absolutely obnoxious, but this, everybody acted like Arch Manning, who is the nephew of Eli and Peyton Manning, that he was just supposed to be the answer to college football at the beginning of this year. I believe Texas paid him several $1 million in NIL money to be there. I think Steve Sarkisian is a great coach. He was a offensive coordinator at Alabama after Lane Kiffin. He's fantastic. He's fantastic. Okay. A Steve Sarkisian Texas team beat Alabama at home before. He's nothing to fuck with. Okay. He is the Wu-Tang for sure of college football. But the problem is that Vanderbilt is playing lights out right now. And they are playing lights out with the Pavia kid who's like 34 fucking years old and he's still in college football for some reason. And they're just playing with nothing to lose. They have only lost one game. It has been to Alabama. Alabama has only lost one game. I don't want to talk about that. I think that's a fucking fluke as far as I'm concerned. I have no idea how to explain that Florida State game. But this game, Vandy against Texas, it is at Texas. But honestly, I don't think that really matters. I think Texas is high off of the way that they beat Mississippi State. I think they might be a little complacent. I think Vanderbilt's loss to Alabama and their almost loss to Mizzou is going to kind of give them a false sense of confidence. So this one, I don't know if I would take Vandy outright to win this game, but what I would take is, let's see if there's points on this game, because sometimes there is. If you can bet the spread, let me look and see what the spread is here. Let's see. Scores, schedule. Saturday. Let's see. Vandy at Texas. Texas is favored by 2.5 points. So I would take Vandy just for the points, in that if Texas, I think this is appropriately, the line is appropriate here, that there's only, a 2.5 point difference that Texas was won by, but I would not be shocked if this came down to like a 1 point game at all. Yeah, I think Texas might win, but I would take Vandy here. And the payout's decent here. So let's say you take Vandy, you risk $100 or even 50. I think that's worth it. I think to double your money. Yeah. Again, I would drink $50 at brunch easily. I would happily stay home, save my liver, drink some water, and potentially win half my money back. Yeah. Otherwise, let's just pick a crazy one outside of the SEC here. Everybody's kind of bitching right now that the SEC is taking up so much attention, but honestly, are you watching UCLA beat their crosstown rival Penn State Does that matchup make any fucking sense? No. Let's see. Indiana and Maryland. Yeah, I think that's fair. Indiana will win that one. Let's see. La Monroe and Old Dominion. You couldn't pay me to care. I know this is an SEC one, but I honestly, Oklahoma just got like slightly embarrassed by Ole Miss, and I think they might play to win for sure at Tennessee, but at Tennessee is a really, really hard place to play. Penn State and Ohio State. This one's probably going to be an easy one for Ohio State. Penn State doesn't have a head coach right now. South Carolina was nasty this weekend. They clearly practiced all year to play Alabama. Kentucky at Auburn. Ooh. Okay. I don't know, guys. Wake Forest at Florida State. All right, here we have a nice ACC matchup. I'm not saying this because I'm a hater, but like, here's $20. Sometimes you make a bet just to see what the fuck will happen. That's not financial advice. Don't do that. But maybe if you just want to see what happens. Florida State is really struggling right now. They have no explanation for how they beat Alabama, and then Alabama has gone on to have nothing but lights out success for the rest of the season. And Florida State lost to Stanford at home. Stanford, I don't know if they've won more than 3 games this year. I think Wake Forest has a chance. And yeah. Overall here, the college football championship winner, right now, Ohio State's favored, and that kind of looks legitimate. I mean, that's Ohio State's main test, I think, will be Indiana, and I don't even think they really play each other. Let's see if I can go to their schedule really quick, and then we will wrap this up. Team stats. This is Texas. Schedule. No. They don't play Indiana. I don't know. Guys, it's a really mixed bag. I don't love what they've done with college football, but we're here. We've just kind of got to deal with it. And the last, let's see, craziest bet here. You could gamble on the weather. Kalshi has absolutely anything you would love to gamble on. The highest temperature in Philly today. I saw a post where somebody said that they would place some particular bet, like the highest temperature in New York City today. They would pick like the local high that's predicted, and then they would just go in and start the largest fire that they possibly could and skew the bet so that they would win it. Arson is bad. Don't do that. The last thing I want to talk about is, and I don't even know if this is a prediction market on here, who will be confirmed as administrator of NASA. So Sean Duffy is currently the head of transportation. Jared Isaacman was the original pick from Trump. He was a friend of Elon Musk's, though, and when Elon Musk and Trump had their falling out, Jared Isaacman was kind of part of the collateral damage of that. Jared Isaacman absolutely deserves to be the head of NASA, whereas Sean Duffy, he's in charge of buses, okay? The guy in charge of like buses and roads and shit like that is probably not fit to be in charge of the rocket scientists and sending shit to space. So hopefully we see before the end of the year, Jared Isaacman be confirmed. And this has time to happen, but there are rumblings of him being confirmed soon, and that his kind of campaign has really kicked up again. It also got kicked up with, I saw Elon Musk started tweeting about this last week and posting that the person in charge of NASA needs to have more than a 2-digit IQ, and that was his stab at Sean Duffy. So, yeah, we will see. But I think this would be another bet that, although obviously the odds are pretty high here in favor of this happening, I do think this one is correct. So $100 would win you $29. Anyway, thanks for joining this week. This has been a really fun prediction market. If you enjoyed this, make sure you like, retweet, comment. Let me know what you want to take a look at. Let me know what your biggest prediction is before the end of the year or even before next week. And I will see you Wednesday for Let Her Cook at 12 p.m. Eastern. And we are cooking something, but it always comes with some spicy takes. I'm Jackie Dutton for BSCN, and I will see you guys on Wednesday.